4 Gospels, 89 chapters, not one single verse where Jesus gets sick. No fever, no stomach bug, no cold that puts him in bed for a week. This is a man walking an estimated 3,000 miles over 3 years of ministry, crossing rocky hills under a brutal Middle Eastern sun in nothing but sandals, sleeping outdoors, fasting for weeks at a time, in an age with no antibiotics, no clean water, no refrigeration, no hospitals. And Scripture never once shows him needing to recover from illness. So what was on his plate? Because the answer isn't kale smoothies or protein powder. It's a handful of food so ordinary that people walk straight past them in the grocery store today, and modern labs are only now figuring out why they worked so well. Let's start with the one hiding an entire ancient trade empire inside a fishing village most people have never even heard of. Number 1. Fish. Here's something that never makes it into the Christmas pageant. The fishing town at the center of Jesus' world wasn't just known for catching fish. It ran an entire export industry off of it. Mary Magdalene's hometown, Magdala, sat on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee, and its Greek nickname was literally Taurachia, the place of salted fish. Archaeologists have uncovered a harbor there, a marketplace with dozens of shops, and roughly 300 stone fishing weights. Ancient writers, including the historian Josephus, along with Cicero and Strabo, all mention the same thing. Salted fish from this one small Galilean town was considered a delicacy on tables in Rome, hundreds of miles away. 2,000 years before refrigerated trucking, a fishing village Jesus would have walked through constantly was running what amounted to an international seafood export brand. That's the world his closest friends came from. Peter, Andrew, James, and John weren't hobbyist fishermen. They ran a business, and fish was the backbone of the regional economy. When Jesus multiplied loaves and fish to feed 5,000 people, he wasn't picking a random menu. He was choosing the most practical, most available protein in the region. And after the resurrection, when the disciples needed convincing that the man in front of them had a real body and not a ghost, Jesus didn't ask for bread or fruit. He asked for a piece of broiled fish and ate it in front of them. Luke 24, 42-43. Later, on a beach in John 21, the risen Jesus is already grilling fish over a charcoal fire before the disciples even reach shore. If you wanted to prove you had a working stomach, fish was apparently the go-to. Here's where the science gets interesting. Fish delivers protein your body can immediately use to rebuild muscle and repair tissue, exactly what's needed when your daily commute involves rocky hills instead of traffic. It also carries omega-3 fatty acids, fats your body cannot manufacture on its own and has to get from food. Decades of research now link omega-3s to lower rates of heart disease, sharper brain function, and reduced inflammation. For a man whose feet, knees, and back absorbed thousands of miles of impact, that anti-inflammatory boost wasn't a luxury, it was maintenance. Now compare that to most dinner plates today. A large share of supermarket fish is farm-raised on grain and processed pellets, rather than the natural algae and smaller fish that build up beneficial omega-3s in the wild, a noticeably different fat profile than fish, pulled straight from open water and eaten the same week. Same word on the label, very different fish. So how would Jesus have actually eaten it? Simply grilled whole over open coals, the way Peter found it waiting on that beach, or salted and dried the way Magdala shipped it, for the days when fresh fish wasn't an option. If one fishing village could build a trade empire off a single food, imagine a whole table of them working on a body that needed to keep moving every day. And speaking of things nobody expects to find on that table, his very first public miracle wasn't food at all. It was a drink. Number 2. Wine. Here's a fact that would ruin a lot of modern wine tastings. In the ancient Mediterranean world, drinking wine straight the way it's poured today wasn't just unusual. It was practically a synonym for being uncivilized. Ancient writers, including Homer, Hippocrates, and Pliny the Elder, described dilution ratios ranging anywhere from 3 parts water to 1 part wine, up to 8 or even 20 parts water for a single part of wine. Drinking it, undiluted, was considered so extreme that Greek writers associated it directly with barbarians, outsiders who couldn't be trusted to control themselves. Jewish tradition landed in a similar place, treating unmixed wine as strong drink, the exact category Scripture repeatedly warns against. So when Jesus turned an estimated 120 to 180 gallons of water into wine at a wedding in Cana, and the master of the banquet declared it the best wine served all night, John 2, 1-11, he wasn't producing shots by any reasonable estimate. A mild, heavily diluted beverage meant to be shared across a multi-day wedding feast. And at the Last Supper, when Jesus told his disciples the cup represented the new covenant in his blood, Luke 22:20, that cup was almost certainly wine cut with water. Following standard Passover custom, why dilute it in the first place? Partly for safety. Ancient water sources, especially near cities, weren't reliably clean, and mixing in wine with its natural acidity and alcohol content helped make questionable water safer to drink. It's essentially an ancient purification trick, hiding inside one of Christianity's most sacred symbols. There's a nutritional layer here too. Grapes, especially their skins, contain plant compounds called polyphenols, including resveratrol, which modern researchers have studied for a potential role in supporting heart and blood vessel health. None of this means Scripture is quietly endorsing a bottle a night. Compare ancient wine cut 3, 5, even 8 parts water to one with a modern glass poured straight from a bottle at 13 to 15% alcohol, and you're looking at 2 almost unrelated drinks wearing the same name. The pattern running through both testaments is moderation, not indulgence, paired with constant warnings against drunkenness and losing self-control. Here's a fun one to sit with. Ever been at a wedding when the drinks start running low halfway through the night? Awkward, right? Now imagine being the guest who fixes that by turning jars of water into the best wine anyone's tasted all night. Tough act to follow at your next dinner party. Ancient wine leaned on water for safety and self-control. The next food on this list didn't need any help staying safe at all. In fact, it might be the closest thing to an eternal food humans have ever discovered. Number 3. Honey. In 1922, when archaeologist Howard Carter opened the tomb of Tutankhamun, sealed since roughly 1323 BC, among the treasures inside were jars of honey, still liquid, still sweet, still, by multiple accounts, edible after more than 3,000 years underground. Scripture reaches for that same sense of near-eternal abundance. The Promised Land isn't described as flowing with fruit or flowing with grain. It's described again and again as a land flowing with milk and honey. Exodus 3:8, the ultimate ancient symbol of overflowing provision. And after the resurrection, when Jesus needed to prove to his frightened disciples that he had a real physical body, some manuscript traditions describe him eating not just fish, but a piece of honeycomb right alongside it. A body that eats honeycomb is not a ghost. So how does a food outlast pyramids without spoiling? Honey has almost no water content, starving out the bacteria that need moisture to survive. It's naturally acidic, around pH 3 to 4 hostile territory for most microbes and bees. Add an enzyme called glucose oxidase that slowly generates hydrogen peroxide, a built-in antiseptic nobody had to invent. Ancient Egyptians and Israelites had no concept of pH or enzymes. They just knew honey didn't go bad and used it as something close to eternal, including applying it directly to wounds. Centuries before anyone understood what a microbe was, modern medicine has circled back to validate the instinct. Certain medical-grade raw honeys are used in wound care today, specifically for their genuine antibacterial properties. Here's a question worth sitting with. Next time you're at the grocery store, do you actually know what's in the honey bottle in your pantry? A significant share of honey sold on store shelves worldwide has been diluted with cheap syrups, corn, rice, sugarcane, then labeled and sold as pure honey anyway. Raw, unfiltered honey, closer to what Jesus would have eaten straight from a comb, still carries the enzymes, pollen, and antibacterial compounds intact. The clear honey bear on the shelf has often been heated and filtered until most of that is gone, leaving behind mostly sugar wearing honey's name. For someone constantly on the move, sleeping outdoors, exposed to dust, crowds, and disease, honey offered something practical: a concentrated hit of fast fuel, plus natural protective compounds. Refined sugar simply doesn't carry. Paired with dense barley bread, it created a 1-2 punch, quick energy from the honey, slow burning energy from the grain. Not a bad blueprint for a pre-hike snack today. Minus the ingredient list nobody can pronounce. From something that basically lasts forever to something that's dirt cheap and once changed the entire course of a family in Genesis. Let's talk about the food humble enough for peasants and apparently valuable enough to trade an inheritance for. Number 4. Lentils, beans, garlic, and onions. Across every single blue zone on Earth, the handful of regions where people regularly live past 100, from Sardinia to Costa Rica to the Greek island of Icaria, one food group shows up on the table constantly: legumes. Researchers analyzing these populations found that every additional 20 grams of legumes eaten daily, roughly 2 tablespoons, is linked to a 7 to 8% lower risk of death from any cause. People in these longevity hotspots eat close to a full cup of beans a day, roughly 4 times the average American. Icaria specifically leans on lentils and chickpeas as a daily staple, the exact same combination that filled bowls across ancient Judea. Would you trade your entire inheritance for a bowl of soup? It sounds absurd, but it's exactly what happens in Genesis 25. Esau, Jacob's twin brother, comes in from the field exhausted and starving, smells the red lentil stew Jacob is cooking, and impulsively signs away his birthright, his entire inheritance as the firstborn son, for a single bowl of it. It only makes sense once you understand something modern people have mostly forgotten. A well-made pot of lentils was genuinely, powerfully satisfying. This wasn't diet food. It was substantial enough that a starving man handed over his future for it. Lentils bring plant protein for muscle repair, iron to help blood carry oxygen, and fiber that slows digestion, so energy releases gradually instead of crashing an hour later. And the garlic and onions simmered in alongside them weren't just there for flavor, even if that's how it felt at the table. Garlic contains sulfur-based compounds long studied for cardiovascular and immune support, while onions carry antioxidants linked to lower inflammation. A pot of lentils simmered with both wasn't just dinner. It was a functional support system for the gut, the heart, and the immune system, built from ingredients any farming family could grow in their own garden. Compare that to a can of lentil soup off a modern shelf, frequently loaded with sodium and preservatives, with a fraction of the fiber left after processing. The version Jesus ate was whatever sat in the pot that morning: lentils, water, whatever herbs and vegetables were on hand, simmered slowly over a fire until thick enough to carry a laborer through an entire afternoon of work. This was peasant food. Widow food. The food of people who couldn't afford fish every day, or wine at every meal. And it turns out it might be one of the single best documented longevity foods on the planet. Funny how that works. Speaking of things hiding in plain sight, here's a detail most people miss entirely. An entire mountain in Jesus' world was named after the next ingredient on this list. Number 5. Olive oil. Quick gut check. The olive oil in your kitchen right now, are you sure it's real? One widely cited UC Davis Olive Center investigation found that a majority of imported olive oil labeled extra virgin on U.S. shelves failed to meet international standards for that label, often cut with cheaper refined oils and sold at extra virgin prices anyway. Not everyone agrees how widespread the problem is. Other independent testing found lower fraud rates, but studies agree on one point: olive oil is among the most commonly adulterated foods in the global supply, precisely because it's valuable enough to fake. That would have been an unthinkable concept in Jesus' world, where olive oil wasn't a specialty item, it was everywhere. The region was blanketed in olive groves. The Mount of Olives, a location central to his ministry, is literally named for the trees covering it, and Gethsemane, the garden where Jesus prayed his most anguished prayer the night before his arrest, takes its name from the Hebrew for oil press. He prayed while surrounded by the machinery used to crush olives into oil. People dipped bread straight into it, poured it over grains and vegetables, rubbed it into their skin, and used it to anoint kings and priests. It was food, medicine, and sacred symbol, all in one liquid. Modern nutrition science has spent decades circling back to explain why that instinct made sense. Olive oil is loaded with monounsaturated fats and natural antioxidant compounds that research has connected to heart health, cellular protection, and reduced inflammation throughout the body, along with concentrated, easily accessible energy for a body doing physical work every day. For someone walking rocky terrain for hours, standing to teach large crowds, and sleeping in whatever shelter was available that night, an anti-inflammatory food source wasn't a wellness trend, it was recovery. Some research has also pointed to potential benefits for brain function from these same healthy fats, worth considering for a man whose ministry depended on remembering scripture precisely and staying mentally sharp through genuinely exhausting, high-pressure days. The gap between then and now largely comes down to processing. Ancient olive oil was cold-pressed between stones, close to the fruit, nothing added and nothing stripped away. Much of what's sold as olive oil today has been heavily refined, blended, sometimes cut with cheaper seed oils, and shipped in clear bottles that let light degrade the very antioxidants people are paying extra for. If you want something closer to what Jesus actually used, look for oil in a dark bottle. Check the harvest date rather than just the expiration date, and buy from producers who can tell you exactly which olives are inside. Use it the way it was used 2,000 years ago, cold, drizzled over bread and vegetables, not just heated into oblivion. Olive oil proved ancient people cared enough about quality to press it fresh from stone. The next 4 foods prove they'd also figured out portable nutrition long before the energy bar aisle existed. Number 6. Figs, dates, grapes, and pomegranates. Hand a kid a dried date and try telling them it's not candy. Good luck. Dates are so naturally sweet and dense they taste manufactured, except nothing about them is. A handful, carried in a pocket with zero refrigeration, could deliver real energy days or weeks after harvest. No ingredient label required. This part of the ancient table shows up all over scripture, sometimes in surprisingly specific detail. Jericho, one of the cities in Jesus' story, was known in the Old Testament as the City of Palms for its date. Palms, Deuteronomy 34. Fig trees appear constantly in Jesus' teaching, and in one memorable, slightly uncomfortable scene, He walks up to a fig tree looking for fruit, finds none, and turns it into a pointed lesson about bearing fruit in season. Mark 11. 12到14. Grapes and vineyards run through parable after parable, from workers hired at different hours to a vine and its branches, and pomegranates carried enough symbolic weight to be embroidered directly into the hem of the high priest's robe, alternating with golden bells, per the instructions in Exodus 28, not decoration, but one of the only fruits considered worthy of the garment of the man who represented the nation before God. The science backs up why all four earned their place. Dates are dense in potassium. Mineral muscles and the nervous system depend on critical in a hot climate, where sweat drains minerals as fast as it drains water. Figs carry fiber that keeps digestion moving and hunger at bay, plus potassium and calcium that matter for anyone standing, walking, and climbing hills all day. Grapes and their skins carry antioxidant polyphenols connected to heart and blood vessel health, the same compounds behind that wine conversation earlier. And pomegranates are loaded with some of the most potent antioxidants of any common fruit, compounds researchers study for a potential role in healthy circulation and managing oxidative stress, the cellular wear and tear that builds up from, say, 3 years of non-stop travel under a Middle Eastern sun. The gap with today shows up mostly in what gets added. Most dried fruit on modern shelves has been candied, sugared, or preserved with sulfites to extend shelf life and boost sweetness beyond what the fruit does naturally. The ancient version was just fruit, left in the sun until the water was gone, nothing else involved. Fresh. These fruits were eaten straight off the tree or vine during harvest season. Dried, they became travel food light, compact, immune to spoilage, perfect for a journey with no coolers and no gas stations. Figs supported digestion. Dates delivered a fast mineral-rich energy hit. Grapes hydrated and could be stored as raisins for months when nothing fresh was available, and pomegranates brought a concentrated dose of protective plant compounds. None of them worked alone. Together, they functioned like a rotating team of nutrients, each covering a gap the others left open. A smarter strategy, honestly, than pinning your health on one trendy superfood, ancient or modern. We've covered fish, wine, honey, legumes, and oil. That leaves the single most basic item on the whole table, the one food. So ordinary, it's easy to forget. It might have been doing the most work of all. Number 7. Barley bread. Quick blood sugar lesson. White bread carries a glycemic index as high as 75, sometimes climbing into the 90s. It spikes blood sugar fast and leaves you hungry again within the hour. Whole barley, by comparison, sits at roughly 20 to 30 on that same scale, one of the lowest of any common grain. That's not a small gap. That's the difference between a food that fuels you for hours and one that fuels you for 20 minutes before quietly turning on you. Here's the detail that gets glossed over almost every time this story gets told. When Jesus fed 5,000 people with a handful of loaves and fish, the bread wasn't some idealized divine loaf. John's gospel is specific. A boy in the crowd had 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. John 6. Barley, not wheat, which cost more and skewed toward people with money. Barley was the grain of the poor, the grain of farmers and laborers, the cheapest and most available option in the entire region. The miracle wasn't performed with luxury ingredients. It multiplied the food of people who had nothing to feed a crowd that also had nothing. The bread itself looked nothing like a modern bakery loaf. Grain was ground between 2 stones, mixed with water and a little salt, shaped by hand, and baked directly on hot stones or inside a simple clay oven. No cultivated yeast for lightness, no bleached flour, no dough conditioners. The result was dense, dark, and rough, and precisely because of that roughness, far more useful to the body than it looked. That low glycemic index comes largely from barley's fiber, especially beta-glucan, which slows how fast the stomach empties and sugar hits the bloodstream, steadier energy for hours of walking and teaching, instead of a spike followed by a crash. That same fiber feeds gut bacteria, and modern research keeps uncovering how much those bacteria influence things far beyond digestion, immune function, inflammation, even mood. Ancient people had no concept of the word microbiome. They just knew this bread kept them going through a full day of real work in a way lighter, softer bread never could. Compare that to what fills most bread aisles today. Modern white bread starts with flour that's had the fiber-rich bran and nutrient-dense germs stripped out, then gets bleached, sometimes loaded with added sugar and preservatives, and sold as a soft, squeezable loaf that can sit on a shelf for weeks without going stale. It's engineered for texture and shelf life, not for keeping a body fueled through a day of real physical work. If you want to eat closer to what actually fed 5,000 people on a hillside, barley never left the grocery store. It's sitting there right now in soups, in whole grain bread, cooked plain as a side dish. People just stopped reaching for it. Putting it all on one table. Picture the actual meal, not a stained glass window, an actual table. A rough, dark piece of barley bread, a small dish of olive oil for dipping, fish grilled over coals, or a bowl of lentils simmered with garlic and onion on the days fish wasn't available, a handful of dates or dried figs on the side, wine, cut generously with water, passed around in a shared cup, honey, kept for when something sweet was genuinely needed. Nothing about that table was expensive. Nothing needed a factory. And yet look at everything it delivered at once. Steady energy from the barley, muscle-repairing protein from the fish or lentils, anti-inflammatory fat from the olive oil, fast fuel and antibacterial protection from the honey, hydration and antioxidants from the fruit. Even the wine did double duty, helping purify questionable water while contributing plant compounds tied to heart health. That table was never just about fuel either. Some of Jesus's most important moments happened while food was on it, meals with tax collectors and people everyone else had written off, a dinner where a woman washed his feet with perfume while the host looked on in horror, that final Passover table. An entire faith still traces its central symbol back to hospitality, forgiveness, and teaching happened with crumbs on the table. Not despite them. Here's the real insight. Easy to miss if you're hunting for one miracle ingredient. No single item on that table did all the work alone. Not the fish alone, or the oil alone, or the bread alone. It was the combination protein next to fiber, next to healthy fat, next to natural sugar, next to protective plant compounds, meal after meal. For years, this was never about building strength to look a certain way. It was functional. Keep the feet moving, keep the mind sharp, keep the body upright through another day of walking, teaching, and healing. Jesus wasn't running on a superfood. He was running on a system. Here's an uncomfortable question worth sitting with. How many meals did you eat this past week that still resembled the actual plant, animal, or grain they came from, not contains an ingredient derived from, but actually resembled? Jesus never touched soft white bread sealed in plastic, a frozen dinner packed with preservatives, or a sugary soda engineered to be impossible to stop drinking. Modern life didn't remove nourishment so much as bury it under packaging. We have more food available than any generation in history, and somehow more tired, foggy, inflamed people than ever fully fed and genuinely undernourished at once. That's not a coincidence. A diet built around refined flour, added sugar, industrial oils, and ingredients nobody can pronounce can fill a stomach completely while leaving the body starving for fiber, healthy fat, real protein, and the plant compounds it needs to repair itself. The ancient table wasn't healthy by accident. It was simple, limited to what the land produced, and nobody had yet figured out how to engineer a snack designed to make you crave the next one. Every trend today insists on a different rule: cut carbs, cut fat, go keto, go vegan, buy this powder, fear that ingredient. The oldest advice on the table might still be the clearest one available. Eat food that still looks like food. None of this means moving to the desert to grind barley between two rocks by hand. We live in a different world, with different jobs, climates, and constraints, and there's nothing wrong with convenience used well. But barley, olive oil, fish, lentils, garlic, onions, figs, dates, grapes, pomegranates, and honey never actually left the grocery store. They're still sitting there, usually in the quietest aisles, while people walk past towards something faster, softer, and more processed. Every meal is a small decision. The table Jesus sat at proves those small decisions, repeated for years, can build a body capable of walking thousands of miles, standing for hours, and carrying a mission that has now outlasted him by 2,000 years and counting. So which one of these surprised you the most? The salted fish empire hiding behind Mary Magdalene's hometown, the honey that outlived the pharaohs, the wine that would make most modern drinkers look reckless by comparison? Tell me in the comments. Genuinely curious, which fact made you stop scrolling for a second? If this changed the way you'll look at your next meal, even slightly, do 3 things for me. Hit like so it reaches someone else who needs to see it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And send this to the one person in your life who still thinks eating well has to be complicated or expensive. It never did. Not 2,000 years ago, and not now. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. It genuinely means a lot to me. I'll see you in the next one.